Good evening, RotoGrinders. We made it almost through main slate day one of NFL football. I'm Justin Carlucci here with producer Devin and Keith Eister. Man, there's only about a billion storylines, and some of them are still unfolding throughout this crazy opening Sunday of NFL season. Keith, man, what's going on in your world? Like, how are your lineups going from main slate? What are some of your biggest surprises from week one?
Yeah, crazy slate indeed. Cash games went okay for me, but I just did not get anything near the top in tournaments. Had a ton of Arizona, Tennessee game stacks. And of course, Tennessee failed pretty bad in that spot. Didn't foresee the Packers just getting absolutely run off the field by the Saints. Those game stacks didn't work out at all. Mostert was a guy I liked as a contrarian running back before the slate. Then Trey Sermon gets ruled inactive, so I went in and added a bunch more Mostert after already being over the field on him. Didn't work out at all. So tournaments didn't go so well, but cash was all right. All in all, slightly negative day, but we move on, right?
Hey, we always have showdown, so I'm looking forward to kicking this off with you this season here. And yeah, just a lot of crazy day in the NFL all around. And same here for tournaments. I just played the Millie. I didn't play anything high stakes, but I'll probably jump into that next week. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it was just a wacky week, from the worst roster in football, dishing it to Urban Meyer and the Jaguars, and Mark Ingram getting 26 carries. Everybody penciled that in, right? And things like that. Man, how about, before we get into the show, how about the Lions and Dan Campbell almost coming all the way back in that 49ers game? Man, what did you think of that game?
That was insane. I mean, it looked like the 49ers were going to run away with that. And then, I mean, they just kept making mistakes and got the Lions back in there. They get the onside kick. Yeah. A couple of crazy things going on today.
Yeah. Awesome day. I'm glad football's back here. Drop some questions in the chat. We'll get to them. We got the Rams and the Bears. More storylines. Matt Stafford, obviously new uniform this season, gets a real scheme with Sean McVay. Gets a little bit of a running game. You have to honor the play action now. Finally, he never had a running game in Detroit, it feels like. So this is a very interesting game with some more new faces and new places here. And what is just your overall macro perspective of this game? Like, how do you predict it kind of flowing or going? Is it going to be a grind? Do you predict a lot of points? What are you thinking here in general, Keith?
Yeah, we've got a pretty low total here. It was sitting at 46, I think last time I saw it, 8-point spreads with the Rams being pretty heavy favorites over a touchdown. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. I mean, I think the Rams are just way too much for what Chicago has to offer on offense. Really elite defense for LA there, obviously. The Bears are going with Andy Dalton. I don't think that's going to work out very well. Just too much pressure from Aaron Donald up front. The Bears offensive line isn't very stout. So I think they're going to struggle with the pressure all day for the Rams. On the Rams offensive side of that, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I'm having trouble figuring them out. The Bears have historically been a pretty good defense, but like you said, Stafford there now should be an upgrade. I like this Rams offense like season long for like an outlook on the whole season. But the Bears defense is pretty good. So we'll see how it shakes out. I think we're looking at pretty much a defensive battle here.
Yeah. So my initial thoughts are for tournaments, I'm probably going to avoid the running game on both sides for the most part. I'll be a little light on Henderson and Montgomery. But like, and that being said, I don't think there'll be a ton of points either, but I think the production is more likely to come through the air.
Agree.
On the Ram side, I know I was just looking back at some Stafford data, and I know everything has changed because obviously he's getting a big increase in scheme, and things can be different, but he generally really attacked the middle of the field last year. Short middle and intermediate middle. So, you know what? The biggest debate, I'm sure, for people who want to go receiver captain or just playing, Rams receivers in their builds is Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods. For me, I'm thinking I'm leaning Cooper Kupp. He's a general in that middle of the field. That's what he does. He's a chain mover, 12, 20 yards at a time. And I think that's going to be right in Stafford's wheelhouse. Gun to head, I knew one of our questions would be Woods or Kupp. Which way are you going? For me, it's Kupp. I know we're kind of jumping around here, but so that's just kind of where I'm at. So let's go there. Like, how captain wise, how are you attacking this thing for tournaments tonight?
Yeah, I think that nailing the Rams wide receiver for the captain, I think, is going to be the key to winning the showdown slate. And for me, it's kind of a coin flip. I could see either one of them getting there. The Bears lost Kyle Fuller. Their secondary is much weaker than it was last year, in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. But I do prefer Kupp slightly, but I think it's really close. I could see a scenario where both of them end up getting there. I'm like you. I don't like the running games on either side of the ball here. Obviously, the Rams lost Akers, and I just don't think they have as much talent back there. So South Bears defense, I think they have to get it done through the pass as well. Getting into some of these secondary plays, like Deshaun Jackson is somebody that's jumping out as very, very interesting to me. Like, we don't know what his role is going to be, but if he's running out there as a slot wide receiver, I could see him getting behind the defense. Just 1.4K on DraftKings. I think he could be an awesome play that could win you the slate.
It's funny. The first game on his log here on the screen is a Dallas, and it's a 1 target, 1 catch for 80 yards and a touchdown game. Wouldn't that be beautiful tonight? So I totally get it. The Bears defense, like you said, is pretty good, but if that play action game even gets going a little bit, if there's any formidable early success for the Rams, first of all, most of my teams will probably be dead because I won't have any of the run game really. But it could be Deshaun Jackson. Just bouncing back to the captains here for tournaments. Are you like a pass catcher guy usually to play at the captain or MVP spot? Because I rarely will play quarterback in large field tournaments. A captain just don't have enough leverage for me anyway. But for playing cash games, I totally get it. So let me start there. If anyone's playing double ups tonight or 50-50s or whatever, like, are you just putting Stafford there because he has the highest floor, or would you go with somebody else? Or, would you even go with the Bear? I mean, we talked a lot about the Rams here. So let's go back and talk about the captains real quick. Cash games, do you go quarterback or do you still take one of these skill guys?
Yeah, I think Stafford makes the most sense as cash game captain. I mean, if it was a situation where you had a locked in number 1 wide receiver, maybe you could make a case for it. But with us expecting the Rams to spread it out a little bit, I think that Stafford is your lock for captain cash.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And I think, we know the target share is fairly condensed in LA with Kupp and Woods. So I feel like we're on kind of generally the same wavelength there in terms of thought process. After Cup and Woods, though, it kind of gets murky in terms of pecking order because we don't really know. Van Jefferson's really cheap. They drafted Tutu Atwell, Deshaun Jackson, like you mentioned. I know those are going to be some popular punts and cheaper exposure plays. How do you rank the hierarchy there? Like, where do you think they are in the pecking order in terms of getting some targets from Matt Stafford? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, that's what makes this a really interesting slate because we just don't know. Just even like in the Cleveland game, Odell Beckham gets ruled out. So you naturally think, well, Donovan Peoples-Jones is next man up. And then Anthony Schwartz is running ahead of him the whole game. So I think you have to lean into that on this slate. And that's definitely an edge. If you get that correct on who that third piece for the Rams is, I think you're going to be well ahead of the field. So my lean is Deshaun Jackson. I have no idea if that's correct. Like Van Jefferson, I think, is the other option there. And Tutu Atwell, he's a very small guy, but they're going to scheme gadget plays for him, I think. So he could definitely be involved too. Like I said, that's going to be a key, is getting that third Rams piece correct.
Are you going to have, who would you play at captain on the Bears if you're predicting a different game script? Is it Allen Robinson, even though he has the Jalen Ramsey matchup? Or, what are your thoughts there? I wouldn't play any Bears at captain in cash games, but for tournaments, I think anything goes, really. Do you have any thoughts there on the Chicago side of things?
Yeah. I'm having a tough time with Robinson. Just really high price tag, really tough cornerback matchup. So I am leaning to Darnell Mooney for my sole Bears captain ownership. The Rams don't give up a lot of deep plays is the other problem. So not a great spot, but we might see Mooney in a little bit different role as a locked in number 2. I think he could run a little bit more over the middle of the field than he did last year. So Mooney is the guy. And I don't think that he necessarily has to hit the home run to pay off. I mean, I think he could legit see some volume here.
Yeah, to me, it just feels like a game where the outside might be locked up on both sides and everything might kind of be funneled toward the middle of the field. I like all the tight ends in this game on both sides to some capacity. Like I think Higby, over the middle, like I'm basically going to be light on Robert Woods, and I like Cup, I like Higby, I like Cole Kmet. I mean, Andy Dalton stinks, and who's the best security blanket for a bad quarterback is the tight end. I like Cole Kmet as a flex play. I'm not necessarily going to use him at captain, but I like him at flex. Cole Kmet, young kid, ready to kind of take the next step. So talk to me about some of these tight ends like Higby, Kmet. Even Jimmy Graham rears his ugly head up once in a while anymore, and we got him projected at 2% ownership. If he catches a 20-yard touchdown in the end zone, he might be in the optimal lineup at 4,600.
Yeah, Higby, I think is a really good play, and you might even see him run a little bit out of the slot. Those over the middle routes that you talked about that Stafford tends to lean to, might see some of that from him. Kmet I like as well. The Bears just don't have a ton of talent at receiver, so Dalton's going to have to throw it to somebody, and I like Kmet as the option there. I think Jimmy Graham has the red zone upside. Could easily see him scoring a touchdown. And honestly, as a Bears fan, I watched a ton of the preseason too. Jesse James was out there a fair amount. So, I mean, on Showdown, anything crazy can happen. If he scores a touchdown, he's going to be noteworthy. So I'll sprinkle him in just a touch too.
Kicker, defense, like talk to me about what you're doing with any of these players. And then we'll talk about some lineup constructions and lineup builds and things like that.
All right. So the Rams kicker, I think, is definitely in play. I think they're going to score more points than the Bears, so I'm going to lean to the favorite side of that equation. I'm probably going to play a little bit more kicker than I typically do, just because we talked about at the beginning. We think it's going to be kind of a defensive battle. Not expecting a ton of fantasy production from the skill guys. So I do think that the kicker's in play a little bit more than usual. On the defensive side, the Rams are expensive. I really wanted to play a lot of Rams defense. I think Dalton's going to turn the ball over. I think the Bears offensive line is going to give up a lot of sacks. So I think the Rams defense can put up a big score, but that price tag, 6.4K, that's a tough ask. I mean, there are so many guys underneath that Rams defense that could outscore them with a touchdown. That makes it really tough to do. So I have interest. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get to here just because it's a high price tag.
Their game log is beautiful. I know game log hunting different season, but they just fill it up. They get the pressure. They're locked down. They almost have at least an interception almost every game on this game log back here. And you're right, we're getting Andy Dalton. Like anytime we're getting Andy Dalton in 2021, there's a high probability of a strip sack or something stupid or a pick six, just garbage points. So I kind of don't mind that. And anytime we got the Rams projected at sub 20%, which for showdown isn't bad at all. So are you gonna run any Rams captain lines? Like, is that in the range of outcomes for you to be optimal tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pick six that you're looking for basically, or strip and score, like you said. I mean, I really think that either defense honestly could score in this one. So I think the Bears defense is in play too. I mean, new quarterback, they may not be in sync. I mean, we could legitimately see a game under 40 points here. I think that's within the range of outcomes. So I think both defenses are in play, and I think even captain exposure is like in play. It's definitely not something that I'm going to do in like half my lineups. It's like a 10% play, but I think that you can do it on the slate.
Let's piggyback off of that backwards, because sometimes a correlation in DFS is pairing a running back with his defense, and if they play with a lead, then you can talk me into playing maybe one of these running backs if I'm playing a Rams defense at captain. Neither of us are huge fans of the running game tonight, as we talked about. Montgomery projected 40%, Henderson 53%. Now, how they're going to use Henderson and Sony Michel to me is probably one of the biggest elephants in the room here. And there's a big discrepancy in ownership. You're getting Michel at almost a 30% ownership discount opposed to Henderson. I don't really have a grasp on how they're going to be used. And even Damian Williams, I don't know, spelling Montgomery, they don't really have anybody else. So I think there's some leverage opportunity for RB2s here. I'm not saying to use them at captain, but I think for tournaments, you can definitely flex one of these second running backs. Like, I'm more prone to be over the field with some of these RB2s than trying to match the field in my multi-entry builds with Montgomery or Henderson. So are you more prone to play running back if you're playing one of the defenses?
I honestly, I still don't like either running back. The number one, Montgomery and Henderson, I'm completely fading both of them. Like at that ownership and those price tags, I don't think that they're going to get there. So I have both of them out of my player pool currently. I do have some interest in the secondary running backs just because of their price tag. If you're going to get them at lower ownership also, I mean, Sony Michel can get in the end zone, no doubt. David Montgomery is not a guy that's been used a ton in the passing game. I think that Damian Williams in a trailing game script can have some value as a pass catcher. So, and at 2.2K, he doesn't have to do a lot. I mean, he can get there in garbage time, like catch-up mode with just dump offs when they're trailing by 2 touchdowns. So I think Damian Williams is probably the guy I have the most interest in. And just for that late game dump off action that I'm thinking might be a role for him. Then it's Sony Michel, and I'm completely fading the top 2 guys.
Okay. Since you think it's going to be a grind, and it sounds like we're both in agreement that might be a low scoring game here, what kind of lineup constructions are you favoring tonight? Is it a 3-2? I mean, it could still be a low total and the Rams take care of business. So what builds, 3-3s, 4-2s, 5-1s, like what are you leaning here for DK?
So I played around with this a little bit before the show, and I think Rams 4-2 is the way I'm leaning. I think they're going to have more success on offense, and even if like Kupp and Woods don't go for huge games, they still might be the highest scoring fantasy players here. So there could be a scenario where the Bears just cannot get anything going, and they may not score a touchdown. So I like the Rams to win. I like them to win pretty convincingly. I think Rams 4-2, and I think a Rams 5-1 is in play also.
They may not score a touchdown. Hot takes. Love it. Definitely possible. Aaron Donald is a man amongst boys out there. Totally get it. Maybe we should cover some Fanduel before we get into some questions. But while we're swapping over to Fanduel, just a reminder, check out RG Premium, guys. I mean, we have a ton of NFL content. Podcast dropping like every day of the week. Showdown shows for every primetime game. It was a busy morning. We had 2 early shows, then we had crunch time. Like, we have you covered for everything. seems like MLB's on the back burner, but it's not. We got about 3 weeks left of regular season MLB. Everything is in full swing now. It's super exciting here. Premium offers for single sports or combos. So if you don't play every sport, you can kind of customize what you're looking for with RG Premium. Like and subscribe, give us some feedback, tell us what you want to hear, send us your questions in the chat. And if you're interested in putting some bets in, check out BetMGM. Use the promo code GRINDERSBET and bet $10 to get $200 instantly on BetMGM. Make sure you want to check that out. Let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. I know you and I played DK more for Showdown, but obviously FanDuel setup is much different for Showdown, or whatever they call it over their single game, where raw points matter more. So just right off the rip here, raw points, who is going to score the most tonight, in your opinion?
It's got to be Stafford, right? I mean, I just think it's going to be a totally low scoring game altogether, and there's not going to be much production anywhere. So a chance a receiver could score 2 touchdowns would, I guess, get them there. But on FanDuel, the quarterbacks just so heavily rule the scoring. So it's got to be Stafford for me.
Like, is there any realm of imagination where Andy Dalton's the guy?
I mean,
you can just say
I
no,
really
it's
don't
okay.
think so. I mean, yeah, sure. Is there a 10% chance Dalton could do it? Yeah, I suppose there is, but I don't like his chances.
Yeah, obviously you can see here, FanDuel, Stafford raw points is the projected leader here by a decent little margin here. Yeah, I mean, what's your difference in strategies between FanDuel and DraftKings? Obviously the scoring's different, and the format where the price doesn't change when you pick an MVP, so it's a little bit different there. So I don't know. Are you playing FanDuel tonight? If not, how would you kind of attack things? Would you do it kind of similar to how you're building DK?
No, I would do it differently on FanDuel. I'm not playing. I generally skip the FanDuel single.
Yeah. Anyway, it looks like Keith's dealing with some technical issues here, but I'm curious to see and hear about his takes when he joins us momentarily. But Keith, are you with us? Still don't know. We'll work on that. We'll get producer Devin on the line working with him shortly. But yeah, I think you need raw points at MVP, but you can get super leverage on FanDuel by using some of these skill position players, because the quarterbacks typically garner so much more ownership at that MVP slot there. So I could still see Kupp or Woods being okay for tournaments at the MVP slot there, because Stafford is just, in my opinion, going to garner a lot of ownership at that slot. So we'll see. I wonder if anybody's going the backup quarterback route tonight with good old Justin Fields. I mean, he's in the player pool. We'll see what happens. If it gets super ugly early, like, how long is Andy Dalton's leash? I don't know if anybody really knows. I think the whole world wishes it would be very short and everybody wants to see Justin Fields, but I don't know what we're going to get there. I really don't know.
Am I back now?
Oh, Keith, you with us?
Yeah, can you? I don't know. My internet's giving me problems. It's worked too hard today, I guess. It's the lineups all day. It's like I'm done.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Good to have you back. I was just rambling about a little bit of FanDuel stuff here, and I said Stafford's likely going to garner a ton of ownership at MVP, but for tournaments, I could still see Kupp or Woods getting there, and I think that's kind of the larger field tournament type of play there. So, what are your thoughts there for tournaments on FanDuel?
Yeah, with FanDuel, you need the raw points at the MVP. So it's really hard to get away from Stafford at MVP. I mean, you could take some shots on Kupp and Woods, I think, but if I was playing on FanDuel, it would definitely be very heavy Stafford in the MVP for me. I mean, very unlikely chance, I think, that Dalton ends up outscoring Stafford, but if you wanted to take a small chance on that, I guess that's in play also.
Amateur hour here in RotoGrinders. I'm muted again. Sorry about that.
I wasn't sure if I froze again or what was going on.
Let's look at the chat and take some questions here. We're winding down here. We're about 25 minutes away to kickoff here. All right. Any interest in Rams D as captain? We're starting right off the bat. We both kind of spoke pretty highly of the Rams D here. It's a pretty high price tag, but there is some value. Like Van Jefferson is sick value, as good as Deshaun Jackson is. So I feel like there's ways you can get away with it, but you're right. You need a perfect storm. You need a defensive touchdown to make it work. Most likely at the captain spot there.
Sorry, my internet was cutting in and out on me again. I didn't hear the question.
Oh, Rams D at captain we had, and I just said, yeah. I mean, there's an outcome where they're optimal, and there's enough value to make it work because you need a perfect storm. You need a defensive touchdown to likely make it work. So, what are your thoughts on Rams D at captain, and how much are you going to have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a viable strategy just because I think we can see a really ugly game. The price tag scares me off. So when I initially
well, it seems like Keith does like the Rams defense, and as do I. But until then, I will just keep rambling and answering some questions as I see fit as we keep going. You're back now?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet here, so
it's all good. Yeah, elaborate on the Rams D a little bit if you're still with us. Unreal. I'm the one who lives in the middle of nowhere here where I lose service all the time. So I actually don't know where Keith lives, but for once it's not me. So that stinks for him, but I'll try to keep this thing afloat here. Yeah, Rams D, I think you can play in large field tournaments. Smaller fields, I'm probably not pulling the trigger at captain, not using them in cash games at captain. But I have a lot of Rams D in the flex. I think they are a viable option, and I think the upside is there for sure. Small field GPP 5-1-4-3 4-3 or 3-3 builds. Well, first of all, 4-3 is 7. Small fields, I'll probably go 3-3, probably a little bit of a higher floor there for small field builds. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on Deshaun? Staff can chuck the deep ball and could go for 50-yard TD. I mean, you're boomer bust with Deshaun. You're going to get probably a 0 or like 15 to 25 out of Deshaun. I don't think there's any in between. So I think Deshaun is a good tournament play. I don't think I'd play him in cash games. I don't think I'd play Deshaun in super small field stuff. But I would definitely have Deshaun exposure in large field tournament stuff there, but he's very boomer bust. The floor is scary, but the upside at 1,400 on DK, I think he is a little bit ludicrous there. Let's see. I want to play Williams over Montgomery, but Montgomery never comes off the field and he's getting 2 yards a carry. That is true. I don't know how they're going to really use Damian Williams. I mean, they really have nobody else that's viable to spell Montgomery. I think Williams might be slightly a better pass catcher than Montgomery, so I don't mind Williams. And I mean, they brought him in for a reason. Obviously, Tariq Cohen's not close to returning yet. So we talked a little bit earlier about the RB2 situation, and they're projected to come in at a pretty low ownership. So I like the leverage that RB2 definitely provides. Williams, we haven't projected a 13% right here. And there's some unknown there. Like, we don't really know what the role is going to be. Obviously, Matt Nagy is committed to running Montgomery quite a bit, especially in the second half of the season.
Sorry for leaving you hanging there.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Just talking a little bit about RB2s here and any interest in Damian Williams. We had a question in the chat. Chat said it doesn't, Montgomery really doesn't ever come off the field, even when he's averaging 2 yards a carry. Matt Nagy loves riding the guys. So what are your thoughts on Montgomery and Williams? And can you play any of these running backs together tonight on the same team?
Well, on your first point, I don't think we know the answer to that. You're talking about last year when their backup, Tariq Cohen, was lost for the year with an ACL, and they didn't have anybody else. So I think there's a very good chance that Damian Williams can be involved here. I have quite a bit of exposure to him. I think it was a play by the Bears last year, just out of necessity, not that they don't want to do it or they want Montgomery out there for 80% of the snaps or whatever. So yeah, as far as playing them together, I'm not playing enough Montgomery at all to where I'm going to do that. And on the Rams side, I don't know, you need both of them to score a touchdown, basically, I guess. So I'm not doing that either. But Yeah, I think the situation with Montgomery's usage is completely up in the air, and it's something I'm attacking tonight.
Yeah, I mentioned there's a lot of unknown there with Damian Williams. They brought him in for a reason. I know Tariq Cohen's missing some time and things like that, but I feel like he's probably the slightly better pass catcher. In terms of Rams running backs who catch passes, neither Michelle or Henderson really move the needle that gets me excited that they're going to catch passes out of the backfield. So I don't even know how Henderson and Michelle are really going to get used. Like, who's going to get the goal line work between the two of them, do you think, Keith?
That's a really good question. I have no idea. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I think that's why I was saying I'm just playing the ownership on Henderson. He's too high owned. He's more expensive. If Sonny Michel has the goal line role, he's a great play. So I'll be over the field a little bit on Sonny Michel and fading Henderson just because of ownership and price.
We did have a DJax mention, and I said yes for large field GPPs. No for super small fields, and he might even be a little risky for cash. But where would you play DJax in terms of contest selection?
Yeah, I mean, it's large field only. There's a chance that he may not see the field. Like, honestly, if Van Jefferson runs in 3 wide receiver sets, DJax may not see the field more than like 5 times, and he might just be out there running sprints. So, yeah, very risky play for sure.
Another question in chat for you, Keith. Here's one. Is 4-2 ideal with 4 being from the winning team in terms of lineup construction tonight?
I do think so, just because we expect the Rams to pretty much dominate the game. If it was a game where there was a better offense on the other side, that's when like 2-4 becomes viable, for 2 from the winning team. But the Bears don't have enough offensive talent in my mind to make running 4 of them against the 4 Rams who score the points worth it.
Here's one for you. Bears side of things. We probably need to talk a little bit more Bears. Neither of us really like the Bears, but anyway, I need one more Bears player for FanDuel single game. Who do I go with, Robinson or Montgomery, Keith?
I mean, it's Montgomery, or I'm sorry, it's Robinson for me in that scenario. I'm not playing very much of either of those guys. Is that for cash? Or if it's a tournament? Is that your only bear?
I don't know the context, but hey, Joseph, if you're in chat, let us know some of the context there. It's kind of probably dependent on what the rest of your lineup looks like, but I'm not in love with the Ramsey matchup. See, for some of my like higher stakes builds, I'm not going to play Mooney and Robinson together. Typically, I don't think they correlate well, especially when Ramsey's probably going to be trailing Robinson. And I understand he can still get his, but I don't see both of them. Like, I don't know what Dalton's props, passing yard props are off the top of my head, but I would imagine they're not very high. Like, I don't think both of them get there, but I think a cheaper guy like Kmet or Jimmy Graham could vulture something in the red zone or kind of make do there. So I just think it matters on the rest of your lineup for sure. Here's one that I really like, Keith. How about going on a limb and throwing Higby at the captain position? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's viable. If we have just one receiving touchdown and he's the guy, I think that makes a lot of sense. There could be a situation where the running backs completely split, like it's 50-50 between Henderson and Michelle, and neither one of them gets there. And if the Bears shut down Kupp and Woods, Higby ends up being the top guy. It could work.
I do have some Higby captain lines, and I have Higby, I have Kupp, and I have Stafford. So that was kind of my core of a couple of builds I was working with there. And the thing that scares me about being light on Robert Woods is, besides everything, is just he's a little gadgety. There's almost a Percy Harvin feel with the way McVay uses him, especially kind of in the red zone. I mean, he'll come in on end arounds, do some jet sweep stuff. So there's other ways that he gets touches that Cooper Kupp just doesn't have in his back pocket. So that does kind of concern me in a gritty game. If they, I could see, Jarvis Landry had a rushing touchdown today, kind of something like that. I could see McVay going into his bag a little bit there and trying to use Woods, in some different ways. So that does kind of scare me a little bit, I guess. Man, Jesse James, man, that guy has been in the league for 30 years. It feels like he, the Bears just having all these tight ends. So, Johnny Munt, I mean, God, we're digging deep here. Johnny Munt had one game last year where he was relevant on the showdown slate, I believe, and he's what, 200.
Yeah, I think like Everett and Higby were out or something like that. And I don't believe that he did anything, but
yeah. So I can endorse. I like this game. I like this game for tight ends in general, middle of the field stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's how I kind of built most of my lineups. I have a lot of Higby, a lot of Cup, like we talked about. Question from the chat: how much Michelle at captain is too much?
For me, the answer is any, but I certainly I mean, you're looking for a favorite running back. I get what you're trying to do there, and we don't know who's going to lead the backfield. So I'm not playing it, but I understand your line of thinking. If you have conviction that you're going to need a Rams running back, then go for it.
Yeah, I think everyone's just assuming it's going to be Henderson leading the split, and I understand why the public's perceiving that, but we don't really know. McVay hasn't been really that vocal whatsoever about how they're both really going to be used, right? I mean, have you seen anything maybe that I'm missing? I really haven't found much.
No, I haven't either. And just a late arrival to camp, like I think the ownership that we have posted is absolutely. I think most people just assume that Henderson's gonna lead it. So I mean, it's an ownership play. The answer is we don't know. Like there isn't. I'm not going to pretend to know when we don't.
Yeah, I think this is the week to obviously attack the unknowns. You know, we'll have more data moving forward, which is going to be nice. Let me see here. What's your hottest take for tonight's in terms of showdown and DK and fantasy point wise? I know you're on the expert survey. Great RG premium feature, by the way. Seeing the expert survey for every showdown slate. That's on prime time, but I don't remember what your hot take was. Can you remind me?
My hot take was Darnell Mooney catches a 40-yard plus touchdown and tops 100 receiving yards. So I don't think that's the most likely outcome. Mooney is my favorite Bear play. And just if he gets over the top, he can do it in one play. I like the upside there. So Mooney is my hot take.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're who's your biggest fade tonight? Obviously, we talked about the run game. Go ahead.
It's got to be Henderson. I mean, I think a running back that's favored by 8 points at home is usually just an auto. You want some of that guy. But with the uncertainty of Michelle there, like it could absolutely burn me. Like Henderson could go out there and have 100 yards and a touchdown, and I'm going to be buried on the slate. But I'm playing the uncertainty. I've got more Stoney Michelle, and that's just the way that I'm playing this one.
Yeah, talking about running backs here. Eric in chat again wrote, is Montgomery a captain a good play? I don't have any Montgomery captain lineups personally. Personal choice. I think it's going to be tough sledding, and I'm assuming you probably feel the same way.
I do feel the same way. You would need the Bears to be leading the game, I think, for that to work out for you.
Which is possible. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the thing is here, obviously, the Titans got destroyed today. The Packers were getting destroyed by Jameis Winston, which is just unreal. But, you know, when nobody plays any meaningful snaps in the preseason, like, I'm sorry, snaps in camp are much different than game speed. I don't care if you're scrimmaging the other 11 on the other side of the ball or what. But, you know, obviously there's a bunch of drama and not a lot of field time with Aaron Rodgers. As long as he's been playing with Devontae Adams, like, timing is everything. And obviously we saw a lot of miscommunication and some mishaps there in Green Bay. And the same thing with Tennessee. Julio Jones missed so much time, right? And then Tannehill had COVID, so they barely even practiced together, let alone they didn't play in preseason. So, you know, as good as Matt Stafford is, you know, he's a veteran, as great of a coach and offensive mind as McVay is, like, there could be some timing issues. Like, there is an outcome where the Bears win this game for sure. I don't think it's my favorite one, but today I think one of the trends are, wow, the players who haven't seen the field together got buried for the most part pretty handedly. So, you know, do you have any input on that kind of take there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. I mean, I have almost exclusively Kupp and Woods in the captain. So I'm clearly playing for a big Rams win. But they could be completely out of sync. So I think that's a great point. If Stafford comes out there and just doesn't have any connection with those guys, it's going to be a problem. And it could just be a really, really ugly game. Certainly a risk.
Yeah, and I don't think that's probable. I think they'll be fine, but we've seen a couple of games today where there were some serious issues, penalties, lack of communication, no timing, just weird stuff happened. So it's definitely possible here. A question we did kind of touch on before are thoughts on Montgomery and Williams in the same lineup. So Keith, bring that up one more time if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think on DraftKings, if you really like Montgomery, I think Damian Williams' price is low enough that both of them could get there. So if Montgomery goes out there and has the big game, you don't need a ton from Williams to also end up being noteworthy on the slate. So if Montgomery's getting there, I don't think it takes much for Williams to get there. I think you can do it.
Yeah, again, I think you need the Bears with the lead game script. So honestly, it kind of makes me want to vomit, and not vomit stack, but I'd probably consider playing the Bears D. If one of those running backs are going to get there, they're going to have the lead, and it's going to be really ugly, most likely, and Stafford's going to be all messed up. So if I'm playing one of the Chicago running backs, I kind of want to play their defense too, and at least some builds together. Keith, here's one for you. How much is too much money to leave on the table? If you have anxiety about leaving any money on the table, Showdown is not for you. And you know what? We all kind of fall in that trap sometimes. Well, I could pay up and get 49.9 for this guy or 50K even. But honestly, tonight I can see you leaving, $4 or $5 on the table in the right game script. I mean, what are your thoughts there? And in general about leaving money on the table in Showdown? I do it frequently.
I also do it frequently. It's one of my favorite ways to differentiate. One of the things I'll typically do is I'll build the lineup with like who I think is going to be the most popular guy. So if we take Bears wide receivers, I'll build the lineup with Allen Robinson. I'll take that exact same lineup, drop Robinson, and pick up Mooney in that lineup. And all I need is for Mooney to outscore Robinson, and we're cooking.
Right, because correlations and stuff like that, and it might look ugly, and like, how can I leave $5 on the table? But when you're straight swapping a Mooney over a Robinson, if Robinson gets shut down and Mooney gets peppered with the targets or Komet, whatever it is, then that makes sense. So I think it's perfectly fine to leave a lot of money on the table frequently in Showdown, especially large field stuff, tournament stuff for sure. Who would be the best captain in single entry, Robinson, Woods, or Kupp? If I had a crystal ball, I would tell you I'm favoring the Rams receivers.
I'm favoring the Rams receivers also. I played 40% captain of each of them. So I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. I'm playing enough to them to where I think I can get to the optimal lineup as long as one of them is the optimal captain. So it's Kupp slightly over Woods, but it's not conviction by any means.
One more question here in chat. Rams D captain viable. We did touch on that earlier. I will have some, and it sounds like Keith is probably going to have some as well.
Yeah, it's just a sprinkle, but it's an expensive price tag, and there's a lot of guys underneath him that can outscore him. So just keep that in mind. It's a long shot play for sure.
How do you fade Mr. Week 1 on this slate? I think they're talking about Deshaun Jackson. It's easy. You pivot to Van Jefferson. Hope he's the guy in the pecking order. Leave the money on the table, right? Another $600 on the table. Boom. Hopefully not duped.
Yeah. I'm not fading Deshaun Jackson. I have quite a bit of exposure to him, but yeah, I think there's a chance he might not see the field. So.
Very true. We got about 5-6 minutes left here before 8:20 lock. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for bearing with us with some of these technical issues we've had. Let's build like a core of a large field GPP lineup here. I know we're legally not allowed to give a full lineup out, and that's fine, but it sounds like we're kind of on similar wavelengths here. So let's put a little bit of something out here. Where are we starting with the captain here? I want to go with the Rams receiver for most of my builds, and his name's Cooper Kupp. Do you have any difference of opinions, or would you be cool with that at captain?
I'm completely cool with that. I am right there with you. I think it needs to be a Rams wide receiver. If you want to go Kupp, if you want to go Woods over Kupp, I wouldn't argue with you, but I think Rams wide receiver is the right call.
Okay. So obviously, whoops, I threw him in flex there. So obviously, well, not obviously, more than likely, we're going to put Stafford in a flex if we're putting Kupp at captain, correct?
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we got Stafford and his pass catcher. Now, what did you say your favorite type of build was? Let's say large field. Everyone likes throwing darts in the big $10 one or something like that. So let's keep large field GPP in mind here. What would you go here? 4-2, 5-1, or are you going 3-3 in large field? Or probably not, right?
3-3 team tends to be the most popular build, so it's hard to get leverage on those lineups.
Mm-hmm.
4-2 Rams, I think is the right answer. I think with the big spread, I think they win this game handily. I think 4-2 Rams is the right way to go.
Are you less likely to play Cup and Woods together with Stafford? Or I am, but I will have some exposure where both are together, but it's not a lot. I don't think both of them get there tonight, but there's an outcome.
Right. It might be low scoring enough where they get there on reception volume, right? So I considered making a rule where I limited Woods in my Cup captain lineups and limited Cup in my Woods captain lineups. Ultimately decided against that. I think it's fine to play them in the flex when one of them's a captain.
Okay.
Just because just on catches alone, they might get there.
Okay, so we can fill in 3 more of these slots here. You see we have about 6,300 per slot remaining, about 4 minutes left before kickoff here. Where do you want to go next? Give me another block here to start with.
I'm going to go ahead and knock out one of the Bears for you. I think Robinson's going to have a tough time with that matchup with Ramsey. Give me Mooney. I think I like the price tag on him. He makes everything else work. So let's get Mooney in there.
That's fair. And it sounds like you and I are both kind of shying away from the run game here. And if it burns us kind of night. But if it's tough sledding, then you kind of have some leverage on a lot of the field here. So I'm going to take the next chess piece and I'll give you the last one. I'll give you the fun 5th one that we can put in there legally on the show. So I'm putting Higby in here. Right. I get my 2 guys that plot over the middle, 12, 15, 20 yards. Stafford likes throwing over the middle. I think the outsides might be a little tough to kind of, get some production on. So that's where I am. I like Higby. I like Cup. And thank you for letting me get both of my guys in there. So you can see we have like 12-6 left for 2 slots. We can't give away a full lineup here, but this is where you really get to differentiate too, whether you want to do a 4-2 or a 5-1. So where, if we have this construction right here, what's your favorite spot to go next?
So half of my lineups start this way, at least, and the other half start with Woods, just like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Rams' third piece is a huge question. So I like some Deshaun Jackson is my preferred guy over Jefferson. The Bears have some real uncertainty too. I think Komet is completely viable. I think Graham is viable. And if you want to get really crazy, like the Bears are undoubtedly going to run some 3 wide receiver sets, and we don't know who the 3rd wide receiver is. Goodwin is the guy listed on the depth chart. Does that mean he's going to be the first guy out there in 3 wide receiver sets? I don't know. I'm going to play some Demir Bird too. He's like $200, I think, or something like that. Going to take a couple of stabs, but I don't know if you have a strong lean on any of those guys. I just kind of sprinkled them around as just kind of trying to find the right piece that you need for cheap.
No, I think that's fair. Let's see here. I mean, Jimmy Graham is pretty low owned and always a threat in the red zone. I just don't know how much tight end stuff they're going to run tonight. Like you said, they're going to run a lot of receivers out there. They're going to be trailing most likely, which if we build like this, this build is kind of like a Rams build for sure. So let's just throw in, let's throw in Komet just for the hell of it here. And you can see you have more than enough money to, 7,400 left here. You can do a lot of things with. You can't exactly get to Henderson, but you can leave some money on the table. Hopefully you don't get duped here. I mean, depending on what you think is how this game's going to play out, if you go 5-1 and, punt Von Jefferson or something and just leave, $7,000 on the table almost, you totally could. Like, I don't think it's likely, but there's plenty of ways to go here. And totally be okay with leaving a lot of money on the table tonight.
Yep, I am as well. Like I said, that's the main construction on how I built my portfolio of lineups. And just because I don't have a lot of conviction on the bottom end of the range, I built it like that a lot and then rotated a bunch of different guys into those last 2 spots. So
question in chat was, can you play Cup and Woods in the same lineup? I literally thought we just went over that. You can. I don't think they both get there.
Right. It's tough for both of them to get there. I agree with you. I considered just making a hard rule to eliminate it from my lineups completely, ultimately decided against that. So I do have a bit of exposure, but like you, I tried to avoid it when I could.
Last comment in chat here. Robinson going to get 20 plus points. Ramsey is overrated. Agree or disagree, Keith?
I'm a Bears fan, so I love Allen Robinson, and I'm not on him for this game. So I think Robinson is a wildly underrated receiver, but I think the Rams key in on him, and they just try to take Robinson away. That's why I like Mooney to get loose. He's my highest exposed play. Like,
I get it. If it's really ugly, I could see him getting there at flex for like raw points, maybe. But I'm not using my captain tonight. If I get burned, I get burned. But that's where I'm at here. And we are at 8:20. It looks like we are locked. And thanks for sticking with us again, guys. Bumpy show here, but we got through it, and we'll be here every Sunday night.
Sorry about the internet issues. I will work on getting that figured out before next time. I'm not sure what was going on there, but we'll get it cleaned up.
It's all good. It's all good. No worries. I know you do a lot here during football season. What's on your schedule this week and every week moving forward?
Still in the baseball grind. So I'm primarily doing a lot of baseball stuff right now. I am on the Showdown expert surveys, like you mentioned, so you can catch my opinion on Monday and Thursday too. But back to the baseball grind first thing tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we'll go get it, man. And a big shout out to producer Devin. I know we're capping a long day for him. Devin, how much sleep did you get? Are you getting any sleep, man? You drinking coffee? Like, what do you do? How do you do it?
I blinked earlier and took a 45-minute nap. So that was my secret.
Well, man, thanks for all you do. Devin is a huge part of what we do here at RotoGrinders. We couldn't do it without him. So week one is almost in the books, of course. Are you on Monday night primetime as well?
Luckily, no, I'm not. Sorry,
Okay.
I turned my camera off. I figured you were done.
It's all good.
No.
I'll shut up. We'll get out of here. We locked. But anyway, thanks again for sticking with us. It was an awesome day here at RotoGrinders. So for Keith and Devin, I'm Justin. Enjoy and good luck.